come on. Move on.
Oh, what? You say it about
on.
Mamdani, I can't say it about Trump? And
Move
Trump
on.
actually said anti-Semitic things. Mamdani has never said anything anti-Semitic. Okay, and then Donald Trump, I would challenge him to define a socialist and a communist. There's no way that he knows that distinction. And no, Mamdani's not a communist.
He wants state-run grocery stores.
What's up, y'all? Cenk Uygur went on News Nation to go up against right-wing MAGA supporter Leland Vittert. I think it was supposed to be an interview, but it kind of devolved into a debate. They talked about a couple of different things. Let's watch some clips, and I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards.
I think about this, Cenk, that oftentimes what you don't say says it most. The lack of outrage on any other cable network about this, the lack of caring about those innocent lives lost, and you compare that to the nonstop coverage of ICE raids, it's sad, but it says everything about the media, and I won't put you in this because I know you have problems with the Democratic Party, but everything with Democratic leadership's problem and priorities.
Yeah. So, Leland, thanks for having me on. Look, it doesn't have to be either or. Two things can be true at the same time. I think that what you're pointing out is two completely different problems, and context matters here too. So, and you're right to not include us in those groups because at the Young Turks, we said that crime had gone up between 2019 and 2023 because it had, especially in the large cities. And we were concerned about that. And we said, if you care about minorities and vulnerable communities and Black and brown communities, then you would care about that crime because it affects them the most, right? But at the same time, I'm concerned about the ICE raids. I think that Joe Rogan has it right. When Donald Trump talked about closing the border, that was popular, and he did do it. When he talks about taking out people who are criminals from the country who are undocumented, that is popular. But when he starts deporting gardeners and cooks and people that have been here 10 or 20 years.
You and I agree on this. You and I agree on this. That there's a line of where public support is America and where there's a sort of a fundamental fairness issue of how Americans view things. As you point out, you throw out people who've been here for 10 or 15 years, have never broken a law, they're coming here illegally and are working hard. That's different than throwing out people who have committed crimes. But I guess my question is, why do you think there is such silence? And I take MSNBC, who says they care so much about Black lives, Black politicians who say they care so much about Black lives, and yet this huge threat to young Black male lives, not only in Philadelphia, but we'll go to Chicago next. This is where there were 12 killed and 65 injured in 33 shootings, including the River North area, which had a mass shooting. I remember when people cared about mass shootings.
Hold on, before we get back to what they're saying, the last thing he said there is, I remember when people cared about mass shootings. Really? Really, Leland? Do you remember when people cared about that? Anytime someone cared about that, people like you said, whoa, this is not the time to politicize it. What do you want? The government to do something about it? Is that what you want? Do you want some type of authoritative figure to say something about guns? How dare you? Because that happens still all the time. So of course we can focus on the tragedies that happen in Chicago and places like that, of course. But there's so much mass shootings that happens across the country that it's not even news anymore. But at the same time, the idea that it's more dangerous than ever is not true. It's actually less than ever. This is how they lie with statistics, saying crime rates went up from 2021 to 2024. Yeah, but what about the 30 years before then, leading up to now? It was going down. So if it went up a little bit, sure. And they'll show 3% it went up. It shouldn't go up at all. I agree with you. But to act like that's such a disaster, but anywhere else where things happen, it shouldn't be politicized, is so nasty. And it's the same game and con that they do to their own audience.
And you know what Mayor Johnson keeps saying is the biggest threat to Chicago? Take a listen.
The incoming administration is not just a threat to Chicago, but a threat to what is sensible about this country. And as mayor of the city of Chicago, we're not going to bend or break or cower to someone's threat. We're going to stand up and unite around our shared values.
Now, he may not be the best person to pick on because I think he has about an 8% approval rating. But at the same point, where is the outrage from Black politicians, from progressive media organizations about this?
Yeah. So again, context here matters. I think Mayor Johnson and Larry Krasner are two very different cases. So, for example, you put up a little bit of a graphic there showing that crime has gone up about 3% since 2024, so in the last year. But there was a dramatic drop-off in crime in Philadelphia specifically between 2023 and 2024. I know because I interviewed both of those guys, and Larry Krasner makes a really good case that crime has dropped in Philly. And so this is a terrible outburst of it, but at least he's trying to do something about it. Whereas Brandon Johnson, we interviewed him, we were hopeful about him, but he's not done a very good job in Chicago.
Yeah,
and
that'd be an understatement.
Yeah, and when you look at the people that ICE is rounding up, 72% of them have no criminal charges, conviction, or any of that.
I've heard statistics on either side, but I think this issue of big cities is an important one because big city crime was something that Republicans have used really effectively, and I think it's important because I think these folks who are victims of this crime and living in these neighborhoods need a voice, and if MSNBC won't be their voice, I'll be their voice because I think it's the right thing to do. You think about Mamdani in New York, who's running.
Before they get into their discussion about Mamdani, the presumed next mayor of New York City, you see when he got numbers thrown at him, he said, yeah, but who cares about that? Yeah, I've seen it on both sides. Sure, ICE is rounding up people who don't actually commit any crime whatsoever, let alone any violent crime. Yeah, but who cares? Those numbers can't be used by politicians. Because he even said there, Republicans do a good job using the fact that things happen in big cities. Yeah, if there's millions of people around, sometimes things happen. It's tragic every time. But the idea that politicians that he supports uses that as a weapon, as a political weapon, is what he's glamorizing. He's gloating about the fact that Republicans know how to scare their own constituents. He's banking on it. He's hoping on it. That's the problem overall with every news media, especially people who are clearly partisan. He's saying that Republicans are better at using tragedies to win elections. You could agree with that or disagree with that, but the fact that he thinks that's a good thing is gross, especially because he doesn't really want to do anything about it. Anytime any politician wants to do anything to benefit your life, to make your life better, they're called socialists, communists, any word that will scare you. That's the gross part about all this.
On a platform not of defunding the police, but actually eliminating the New York Police Department.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he says he wants to create the Division of Public Safety or something where everybody's going to sing songs and talk about why stealing's bad, I guess. I don't know. No. That's what he says. But this is my question. Is Mamdani the future of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, so first of all, let's be clear about what he said. So I'm not a defund the police guy. I've had battles with those guys, et cetera, because I think it's a terrible slogan. But what Mamdani is talking about is taking a portion of the police budget and moving it towards social services in the cases where social services make more sense, when it's a mental health issue, et cetera. And I actually want to see him try it because I'm curious to see if that's going to work or not. Defunding the police altogether and not having cops would be absurd, but that is definitely not what he's suggesting. He's suggesting a reapportionment, and I don't know how that's going to turn out. Didn't we learn from 2021
and 2022 and 2023 none of this stuff worked?
Yeah, I don't know that we did learn that. I think that it was a great question, and it never really got resolved as to whether COVID drove a lot of those results or some of the policies drove some of those results. We've had a lot of conversations on TYT about this, and I'm open to the idea that, for example, no cash bail made a lot of sense to me. But I think that for recidivists, you really need cash bail. Otherwise, they just keep committing the crime over and over again.
Yeah, it tends to be that the people who commit crimes end up committing more crimes. But this is a point, right? That one of the best things for Donald Trump is a foil. This is Trump talking about Mamdani today. Take a listen.
He's not a socialist, he's a communist, and he said some really bad things about Jewish people, and he said some really bad things about a lot of people. And I think he's going through a little bit of a honeymoon right now, but he might make it. But, you know, it all comes through the White House. He needs the money through the White House. He needs a lot. He's going to behave. He'll behave. He better behave.
I know that was going to set you off.
Okay, first of all, Donald Trump's one to talk about saying anti-Semitic things. He just said Shylock the other day.
Oh, come on. Move on.
Oh, what? You say it about Mamdani, I can't say it about Trump? And Trump actually said anti-Semitic things. Mamdani has never said anything anti-Semitic. Okay, and then Donald Trump, I would challenge him to define a socialist and a communist. There's no way that he knows that distinction. And no,
He
Mamdani's not
wants
a communist.
state-run grocery stores.
Yeah,
That's Venezuela and the Soviet
Yes.
Union. It didn't work.
Yeah, no, look, I wouldn't have been high on my priority list, but that's another one that I'm curious to have him try. The people of New York say, hey, we want to go in this direction. So let's see,
Jake,
does
we
it lower
tried
the
it. We
prices
tried it in
grocery
Venezuela.
stores?
We tried it in Venezuela.
No. Venezuela was a giant takeover by the government and total centralized
Exactly
planning.
what he was. Okay.
Leland is a clown. I don't have any problem with conservatives. I love you all. We're all human. At the end of the day, if you're not a super mega rich guy or on TV literally pushing propaganda, then we're on the same side. I don't care what you believe. But to try to muddy the waters on what Mamdani has said and wants to do is so nasty. The idea of using some of the NYPD budget to help services outside of the police department to actually support them is not a bad thing. NYPD is one of the biggest armies in the world. It's one of the biggest military or police budgets in the world, bigger than most countries. So yeah, they can afford to have other services that's not just force first. And then the idea of public grocery stores. What's wrong with that? Just saying it isn't scary enough. What's wrong with that? One for every borough, especially because New York City already subsidizes the big stores. So since New York City already pays for that type of service, why wouldn't those grocery stores be public? It would have less profit motive. It would just be about feeding the people. Why is that a bad thing? If he can explain why that's a bad thing, then I'll talk less smack about him. Not none, but less. But people like him can never explain why it's a bad thing that because we already pay taxes, that money should be used to benefit the people. If you have any idea, let me know in the comment section. And if you're still watching, click this video of Piers Morgan wrangling in a war criminal and calling her that to her face. Also, click the like and subscribe to the channel. Peace.